Hey everyone! It was recently brought to my attention that some of you, my readers, may not be here in Minnesota where I do all of my readings and public appearances. So, in light of that, I decided to do a few more of them here on my YouTube channel. So just sit back and relax and enjoy a little snippet from Chapter 13 of Dragon Guardian Fire. Dressed in fresh clothing and feeling refreshed after a long sleep and a late breakfast in her room, Marin stepped into the corridor outside her chambers with Noctum in her arms and found Velius waiting for her. "Oh," she greeted with a blink of surprise. "Good morning, Velius," she greeted with a friendly smile. "Were you waiting for me?" Velius returned Marin's smile while giving a polite bow of his head. "Good morning, Princess. Yes, I was. And please allow me this moment to wish you a very happy birthday." "Thank you," Marin said before pressing a kiss to the top of Noctum's head and allowing him to climb onto her shoulders. Not that I mind you being one of the first people I see in the morning, but why exactly were you waiting for me?" "I have been assigned to be your guide while you are here," Velius answered as he began leading the way down the corridor at a leisurely pace, leaving out the matter that he had been in fact assigned to protect Marin while Duncan was in Silvestri. "Well, that's so very kind of you," Marin said with a smile as she looked up at the handsome knight, "but I wouldn't want to bother you." "It is not a bother for me, Princess," Velius said with an easy smile as he gazed down at Marin. "I am most honored to do it." He chuckled softly as he watched Marin's eyes widened as they stepped outside and granted the half-elf the view of the large, elegant tent of an almost transparent white material being set up in the clearing. Lanterns of delicate white paper were being hung within the trees surrounding the tent, and dark, polished wood tables with matching benches were being arranged before the tent. "Velius, what's going on?" Marin asked as she looked up at her guide. "We're preparing for your birthday celebration tonight, Princess," Velius answered. "All of this?" Marin asked incredulously as she looked around, nodding and smiling shyly in acknowledgement of the birthday wishes she received. "Just for me?" "Who else would it be for, Princess?" Velius asked with a soft chuckle. "You are our future queen. You are important to us. Why shouldn't we celebrate the anniversary of your birth with pomp and circumstance now that you've returned to us?" "I've never had a big celebration for anything before. None that I can remember in any case," Marin said softly, while unconsciously shrinking into Velius a little, completely unaccustomed to all the attention she was getting from the elves milling around in their tasks. "I've never had so many people so happy to see me either." Velius smiled softly down at Marin. "Give it time, Princess. You will become accustomed to it soon enough." "Velius, you really don't have to keep calling me Princess," Marin said, as she gently stroked Noctum's fur. "I really don't feel like much of one." Velius' smile never wavered. Humility is one of the qualities of a good leader, and regardless of how you may feel, you are a princess, through and through. Marin smiled shyly at three more well-wishers before looking up to Velius and placing her hand in the crook of his arm. "Do you think we could go someplace a little less conspicuous? I'm not used to all this attention." Velius chuckled softly. "Your wish is my command, Princess," he said, as he gently directed Marin into the forest. "Thank you," Marin said with a small sigh of relief. "You are most welcome, Princess." "Velius," Marin reprimanded gently. "Forgive me, Marin," Velius said with a small smile. Marin smiled. "There now, that wasn't so bad, was it?" "No, I suppose not," Velius answered with a soft chuckle, and his smile still in place. "Very well. If you wish it, I shall call you by your given name when we are alone. However, when we are in public, I will revert back to your title. Agreed?" Marin's smile grew. "Agreed." Her ears soon became attuned to the sound of trickling water, and she gently tugged on Velius's arm as she followed the sound through the trees. Within a few moments, the pair of them came to a crystal-clear brook. "I often come here when I need time alone to sort things out in my mind," Velius said as he gazed serenely at the babbling water. I can see why, Marin said wistfully with a soft smile as she slipped her hand from Belias's arm and sat carefully upon the bank so as not to disturb the feline on her shoulders. It's so peaceful. She giggled softly when Noctum's tail curled around her neck and tickled her, but her moment of mirth was short-lived. Belias? Yes, Marin? Do you believe that this will ever be over? Marin asked softly as she drew her knees to her chest and hugged them to her while gazing at the stream. The war, I mean, she clarified. Do you believe that I will be able to restore the peace, like Nicodemus says I'm destined to? Belias gazed down at Marin silently for a few moments before sitting down beside her. Yes, I do, he answered as he crossed his legs and rested his elbows upon his knees while folding his hands under his chin. I believe in you, Marin, as do we all. But what if I fail? Marin asked in a voice barely above a whisper. What if all your hope and belief in me is misplaced and everyone suffers for it? Belias smiled gently. It is only natural for you to feel doubt, Marin. You are young by both mortal and elven standards, and you have been placed with a monumental task. A lesser person, no doubt, would have buckled under such pressure by now. But you are still standing. The key is to not allow yourself to be ruled by your fears and doubts. Instead, ask yourself this. If you were not truly up to the task, would you have been gifted with the mark of the Dragon Guardian? Marin nervously bit her bottom lip. But Nicodemus said there's a chance the elemental dragons won't find me worthy, she said softly. Even though I bear the mark of the Dragon Guardian, I still have to prove myself. Belias was silent for a few moments as he thought of how to bolster the half-elf's confidence. If you truly weren't meant to fulfill your destiny, Marin, do you think that Naga would be pursuing you so fiercely? He asked simply with a small smile. Marin blinked, then looked to Belias, a small smile forming upon her lips. I never thought of it like that before. Belias gave a small shrug of his shoulders, his smile never once fading. Sometimes all one needs is a second view of things. His sapphire eyes widened a little in shock when Marin leaned close and pressed a kiss to his cheek. It had been over 300 years since Belias had felt the kiss of a woman, the last time being his mother kissing him goodbye when he had been taken from her at the age of 10 to begin his training as a celestial knight. Thank you, Belias, Marin said with a relieved smile as she pulled slowly away. I feel much better now. Belias softly cleared his throat and resisted the urge to touch Marin where Marin had kissed him. It's my pleasure, Marin. You really are very kind, Marin said with a smile. I'm very glad to know you. Belias smiled softly. You flatter me. I speak the truth, Marin replied as she gazed into Belias's face. So much has been taken from me. I try to take delight in whatever comes my way. Belias gave a small bow of his head. I'm truly honored that you would consider me in such a way. Marin sighed softly and stroked Noctum once he jumped down and curled up in her lap. When do you think we should return to the castle? Belias looked up to the sky to gauge the position of the sun. Soon, I believe. I would imagine that your maids have a great deal of primping planned for you. Marin groaned softly. I'm going to have to wear a dress, aren't I? Belias chuckled softly, not fond of the idea. I have never worn a dress in my entire life, Marin admitted. What if I look ridiculous? Belias slowly swept his gaze over Marin before resting it upon her face and smiling. I have no doubt that you should look quite lovely. Marin blushed and averted her eyes. Now you're flattering me. Belias's smile never wavered. I speak only the truth, Marin. He cleared his throat softly. Would I be correct to assume that you have yet to visit the memorial? Marin blinked and returned her gaze to Belias. Memorial? What memorial? Belias simply nodded and smiled softly before standing and then helping Marin to her feet. This way, Marin, he said politely as he began leading her back towards the castle, taking care to keep away from the crowds for Marin's comfort. After a short while, they made their way around to the back of the castle, and Vilius gradually came to a halt before a field that was completely covered with flowers of a dark red shade. The flowers swayed gently in the soft breeze as though performing a slow dance, and as the flowers shifted, Marin was able to catch glimpses of markers. The markers were made of white marble and were low to the ground, and all throughout the field there was an air of tranquility, unlike any other in the kingdom. Even the birds seemed to sing softer here, their songs sad lullabies to those interred beneath the blooms forevermore. Marin blinked her emerald eyes while looking over the expanse of the field in awe. "Why are all the flowers red?" she asked in a soft whisper, as though afraid to ruin the tranquility of the area with a louder voice. "Because they represent the blood of all who fell in times of battle," Vilius answered softly. "And the flowers never wilt, even in winter, as a way to symbolize that those lost to us will always live on forever in our hearts and memories." "How do the flowers never wilt?" Marin asked as she tore her gaze from the memorial in order to look up at Vilius curiously. Vilius smiled down at Marin. "Magic." He began to gently and carefully lead Marin through the flowers and between the markers. "Where are we going?" Marin asked, deeply touched by the reverence Vilius showed in his movements. "Somewhere very important," Vilius answered softly. He continued leading Marin until they reached the center of the field, at which point he drew to a halt and respectfully bowed his head towards 3 markers that appeared newer than the rest. Marin confusedly looked down at the markers before dropping shakily to her knees upon seeing the names upon the markers. My mother, father, and sister." Though her voice was a barely audible whisper, it still trembled with emotion as tears rolled down her cheeks. Not knowing what else to do, Vilius dropped to one knee beside Marin and placed a gentle hand upon her shoulder. "Yes," he said softly. "Your grandfather had the remains transported here once they had been found. I simply thought that you would like to see them, to know that they had not been forgotten by us." She regarded Marin carefully and instantly began regretting his decision to bring her there. The tears rolling down the half-elf's cheeks broke Vilius's heart, and he suddenly thought his actions had been careless. "Forgive me, Princess," he said softly. "I should not have brought you here. I should have known better." "No," Marin said with a shake of her head before turning her face to Vilius and giving him a sad smile. "No, I thank you for bringing me here," she said softly as she used her sleeve to wipe the tears from her face. "And it's Marin, remember?" "I did not mean to sadden you, Marin," Vilius said softly as he reached into the sleeve of his tunic and pulled out a handkerchief before offering it to Marin. "And a princess should never use her sleeve to wipe her face." "The death of my family will always sadden me, Vilius," Marin said softly as she accepted the handkerchief and dabbed at her eyes. It was far too sudden, and there was still so much I wanted to say to them. Things I put off saying because I believed that I had more time to say them. She offered the handkerchief back to Vilius. "I never even got the chance to say goodbye." Vilius gave a small shake of his head while motioning for Marin to keep the handkerchief. He then gave her a small, gentle smile. "Then tell them now, Marin. Tell them everything that you ever wanted to tell them but were never able to." Marin blinked away the new tears that had begun forming in her eyes. But what about the party? What if I take too long?" Vilius gently took the handkerchief from Marin's hand and lightly dabbed away at the new tears that rolled down her cheeks. "Your guests will understand," he said with a gentle smile. "Some things are more important than a party." I hope you enjoyed that little snippet. And if you would like more information on my novel, here it is again. Dragon Guardian Fire by Aida Jacobs. That's me. If you would like more information on it and the world of Primordia in which it takes place, please check out my website. You can find the link below. And that's it for now. Catch you next time. Primordia forever!